evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for watching. Education workers are going back to the bargaining table. Plus, Windsor front and center today as the mayor and deputy chief of police testify. They stood before the federal commission in Ottawa looking into the Emergencies Act. More waste than expected. Extra residential garbage this year means the city of Windsor has to invest more cash to collect it. And as a new medical study shows the risks of chemical hair straightening, Black women who have turned to these treatments for years are embracing their natural hair. We begin tonight with CUPE workers hitting the brakes on their walk out of schools for now. The union representing education support workers in Ontario has accepted a proposal from the provincial government. It will end a 2-day work stoppage that saw hundreds of thousands of students shut out of class. TJ Deere joins us live now for more on this. TJ, what changed CUPE's mind?
Well, Kat, I'm standing outside the Catholic School Board office and Assumption High School, and that's one of the many schools where students and staff will be heading back to class tomorrow morning. Now, the key to that was Bill 28, which the provincial government said they would revoke as soon as it could, and that was the key to bringing CUPE back to the bargaining table.
As a gesture of good faith, our government is willing to rescind the legislation. We're willing to rescind Section 33, but only if CUPE agrees to show a similar gesture of good faith by stopping their strike and letting our kids back into their classrooms.
Now, the Ford government issued the legislation known as Bill 28 last week. It also invoked the notwithstanding clause in the Constitution in an effort to preempt any legal challenges. The support workers, including custodians, teachers, teaching assistants, and others who are members of the Canadian Union of Public Employees, also known as CUPE, ignored the law and walked out on Friday. The union called the action a political protest.
And TJ, what are you hearing from education workers here in Windsor?
Well, I was outside the Windsor office of PC MPP Andrew Dowie earlier today, and there were protesters there despite the threat of the fines. Now, the news actually of Bill 28 being revoked actually broke when I was there, and I asked the people around what they thought about that.
I think that's great news. It's good for the students to get us back in working with them. I just hope that they continue to bargain in good faith and that we can still come to a good deal. That's good for us and it's good for the students and all education system.
I am so happy we can be with our kids. We can actually be back at the table where we belonged this entire time.
It's nice that the government has seen that the notwithstanding clause wasn't appropriate in this setting, and that we're glad that they're going to repeal it so that we can actually get back to bargaining.
I was relieved that they finally came to their senses. It was a sense of happiness that we were successful in our struggle. I also give a lot of credit to the workers that took a risk to politically protest what the government was doing. It was not easy. They were trying to be intimidated. They were being, threatened with potential fines, individual fines. But they stood up because they knew they were on the right side of this.
Now, again, students and staff at the Catholic School Board will be heading back to class tomorrow morning. The two sides are also heading back to the bargaining table. We'll keep you up to date on the latest developments in the story. Kat?
Thanks for this, TJ. CBC's TJ Deere live for us tonight. Windsor has taken center stage in Ottawa, where a hearing into the use of the Emergencies Act hits day 18. Windsor's mayor was questioned by lawyers about text exchanges with the Minister of Public Safety and Premier Doug Ford. CBC's Chris Ensing joins us now live in studio. Chris, you covered the protest. What did the commission want to know?
Yeah, Kat, the focus continues to be about if the Emergencies Act was useful or needed. Mayor Drew Dilkens appearing today, spending about 5 hours answering questions from lawyers this morning and early afternoon. The commission asked why police didn't act on warnings that the bridge would be blocked off. Dilkens saying it was practically impossible to prevent because of how many access points there are. He was asked about resources and said that police did not have enough resources to clear the bridge. About 700 officers total arrived in Windsor to clear that blockade. That took about 6 days after it started. During that time, Dilkens had texted with Premier Doug Ford, shared a quick phone call as well. He also texted the public safety minister about that call after he hung up. Now, here's what he wrote to Minister Marco Mendicino. So this is Dilkens texting him, letting him know that Ford seems to be going the way of Alberta and Saskatchewan. Dilkens testifying today that his sense was that Ford was going to end the lockdown like those two provinces had. He did not talk about the Emergencies Act with Ford, but he did ask Mendicino about that Emergencies Act the morning that it was invoked. The minister replied asking for Dilkens' support. Dilkens testified today that it was extremely helpful because it told protesters not to come back. Now, Dilkens has called the protest a national security threat, mainly because of the dollars involved here. Huge economic hit. Today, we learned that hanging in the balance during this protest was the battery plant investment. We didn't know about it then, but the CEO of Stellantis was worried. The ball was rolling on an announcement about this multi-billion-dollar investment. Here's how Dilkens summarized that moment.
But there were options up the 401 in Ontario, and there were lots of options across the border in the state of Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. And so I was determined on behalf of the city to make sure that that landed here, and we were at a very fragile point in the process that this could have been derailed. This, you know, if they had looked at this and taken a perspective that we don't want this hassle, it's just easier to do business in the United States, this is the type of event that could have derailed this major investment for Canada, for Ontario, and certainly for the city of Windsor.
Blockade was cleared. The investment came through, and now the plant is being built. Those trucks dropping off all that aggregate material into the land. Dilkens also testified today that the plan to clear the bridge was delayed by a day. And he said it was because protesters brought their kids on that Saturday. Police wanted them to be out of the picture before making arrests. Kat, we just heard testimony from Windsor Police who said that they were worried protesters might have been using kids as human shields.
Chris, as you just mentioned, Windsor Police, they were called to testify today. What else did you hear today?
Yeah, that they said that the operation was smooth and a success. The OPP joined seamlessly into a unified command, Acting Deputy Chief Jason Crawley said. He was the officer in charge at the time. Crawley was asked why police didn't do more to prevent the blockade, considering the advance warning that they had from OPP intelligence reports. He said it was difficult to figure out who was actually part of the convoy, that it wasn't like Ottawa.
Main difference was it wasn't all semis. It was a lot of pedestrian vehicles, pickup trucks with flags. And at this point, when we were there, we don't know who a protester is at that point, other than, you know, people with flags, for instance. So it was very difficult to even determine who is a protester and who's just driving down the 401, essentially. So stopping a convoy just wasn't as easy as it sounded.
I did mention the public pressure, both Dilkens and Crawley, that they faced during this. We want to go back to the Emergencies Act here quickly. Crawley was asked, did police use any of that legislation? No, he said, but he said it may have stopped protesters from returning to the blockade, something that they were very paranoid about happening again, he told the commission. Kat, we're expected to hear more testimony about Windsor's response tomorrow. This commission is also going to piece together a report with recommendations. That could take months to finish.
You're going to keep following this for us, Chris. CBC's Chris Ensing live for us tonight. More trash than expected. The city of Windsor anticipates collecting 5,000 more metric tons of residential garbage this year than originally planned for. That means a bigger dent in the waste collection budget. Dale Molnar now with more on what that means for the taxpayers and the regional landfill.
The GFL garbage trucks have been a lot busier lately. It's expected they will pick up 11.25% more metric tons of garbage by the end of the year. That's 5,000 metric tons, and that means it will cost $575,000 more than expected.
There could be all kinds of reasons for that, but just in general, we have had an increase in the number of homes in the city of Windsor. That increase year over year was about 2.3%. So that alone would account for some of it. And perhaps just consumer behavior, people just purchasing more things or disposing of more things.
Albedoni does not attribute the excess waste to people staying home during the pandemic. She says more people are going back to work. It's not clear how City Council will deal with the cost overrun. Albedoni says they may use budget stabilization funds, and if the trend continues, it will mean a bigger waste disposal budget next year.
We, ask our residents to be conscious of what they're throwing away, to be conscious of what they're buying, how much waste is in what they're buying.
Now, even though 5,000 metric tons of garbage seems like a lot, it's still a small percentage of the amount going to the landfill every year. And the manager of the Solid Waste Authority says it's not expected to shorten the lifespan of the landfill. The landfill is still projected to be able to take waste until 2040, but the manager still looks forward to 2025 when the city and county begin an organic waste diversion program.
So there is an opportunity to divert that organic waste and take that material out of the landfill. So we always welcome any changes that potentially could, lengthen the lifespan of our landfill and divert more material from the landfill.
And Ward 9 Councillor Kieran McKenzie, who sits on the Solid Waste Authority board, says residents in this area have to do a better job of recycling.
We do have a number of different programs and tools that we have out there for people's use. A handy mobile app, for example, the Recycle Coach. You can download it right onto your phone. You open it up, you type in a particular item, and it'll tell you which waste stream it belongs in.
City Council will deal with the report on Wednesday. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
More of downtown Wheatley is reopening after an explosion more than a year ago. This here is the updated evacuation zone. While Erie Street North remains closed for 1 block north of Talbot, Elm Street and Foster Street will be open to traffic once again by the end of day tomorrow. The municipality says the work by the provincial drilling contracting firm is done, and security will remain at the reduced evacuation zone on a 24-hour basis. There are also plans to install a scrubbing system to capture any hydrogen sulfide gas that may leak from the well. That could lead to reducing the evacuation zone further. The current monitoring system will remain as a backup. A new medical study has found that women who use chemical hair straighteners and relaxers may have a higher risk of uterine cancer. But for many Black women who have turned to these treatments throughout their lives, the results are not a surprise. I stopped by Entice Salon to speak with the owner and with clients about the risks, moving away from straightening and embracing natural hair.
We do, right? But again, we did it anyway. I wonder about the effect of it from when I was a child to now, Am I going to possibly suffer from the effect of it, As a kid, I did it, especially because as a young child, my mom took care of my hair. As I got older, doing it on my own was difficult.
When did you eventually realize, oh, maybe I don't need to do this anymore?
When my hair started to fall out. And I realized, okay, it didn't matter whether I straightened it or not. It was something that I need just to learn to take care of my hair myself.
How much of a demand is there for chemical straightening today?
Well, I can give you an example. I've been open almost 12 years now. And when I first opened, I was doing probably about 20 to 30 a week, to the point where now I do maybe 2 or 3 a month. I'm very happy that the natural hair movement itself has started, because I really honestly I think the less chemicals you can put in your hair and the less you manipulate your hair, it's actually healthier for your hair. And it's also good to embrace your natural hair, what is actually yours, what you were born with. This movement to straighten your hair basically came more from a Eurocentric view, right? Mm-hmm. You were trying to be accepted. For myself, I was a person who used to always relax my hair, put weaves in, all of those things. And I remember having to, especially if it was a job interview, I would want to go there with straight hair and then get my 90 days and then maybe do something different. How awful is it to be a person that something that actually naturally grows from your hair is not considered professional and can stop you from getting a job when you are qualified for it, you've gone to school for it, you are a great worker. Those are some of the things that are barriers that other people might not see and other races didn't understand, but it's something that we always had to deal with.
Why is your hair puffy? Or, oh, let me touch your hair, let me see what it feels like, right? Having your hair in a relaxed state tends to stop people from commenting too much on it. Mind you, having my hair like this now, I do get comments, but it's different now. It's, oh my God, your hair is so pretty. And that's from not just Black people, it's from non-Blacks as well. Mind you, too, still people want to touch it, which is okay, guys, but yeah, please don't touch my hair.
Everybody is embracing their hair. We have so many male customers. Boys, usually, they just shave their hair off or they have bald fades. We've got guys that are coming in now.
As a man, instead of straightening, we're told to keep our hair short. And I always like to have my hair longer and keep it grown out. Mm-hmm. So I feel we should just push the natural hair and push our hair in general.
I definitely am happier now with the way my hair is.
For any of us who are Black women, Black people, it is a liberating experience to be able to walk someplace and not be judged on your hair.
The Windsor International Film Festival is over for now. So how many films did you see at this year's WIF? 1, 2, 10? The CBC's Mike Evans caught up with one WIF patron who managed to see 77 films over the course of the 11-day festival.
I was able to fit in 77, and I believe that 81 would have been the magic top number.
So 81 mathematically would have been as many as someone could have seen.
Possibility, yes, because that would include the 4 midnight sessions. That makes it 7 movies a day, except for one day where I was able to fit in 8 because I missed one session the day before.
Was there any movies, any films that stood out to you? What are some of your favorites that you got to see at WIF?
My goodness, I will tell you that the majority of the favorites were the Francophone movies, because the one thing that I do like about WIF is that it showcases so many Francophone movies from all over the world. I was able to see so many different topics, subjects. Oh, it was wonderful.
What's your plans for next year? Do you want to try to keep the pace going?
No, I think this was good for this year. I will definitely be coming back, but I don't think that I will do what I did this year. It's almost crazy to think that I was able to accomplish what I did.
One of the most important things, and WIF is always talking about this, is the conversation begins after the movie ends. And when you're trying to cram 77 movies into a film festival, do you feel like you're not able to have the conversation, or is that something that happens now?
I think it happens now, but believe it or not, the conversation often was before the movie started, because what happened was that people would say, oh, did you see this one? Did you see that one? Or no, I did see that one. And then you stop them because you say, no, don't say anything. You don't want to ruin it for anyone. And then afterwards, when you touch base with people, it was amazing to see that they had probably the same reaction as you did. Every day, I would fold over my little ticket, use my pass holder, rip it, hand it over, and then I would have my souvenir ticket. I had a blast.
The executive director of WIF says they sold 45,000 tickets this year. Back in 2019, they sold 43,000. Live look outside there looks a little different than last week. It's dark out after the change in the times, which I never ever enjoy. But here we are. It was another beautiful sunny day today, though a bit cooler in temperatures. When we come back, Colette Kennedy will have a full weather forecast for us. Stay with us. It was a beautiful weekend. Environment Canada says we got up to 22.6 degrees on Saturday. That beat the last previous record of 22.2 degrees set back in 2015. CBC's TJ Deer went out to see how people have been enjoying these lovely last Windsor days of fall.
Weather is very beautiful today. It's like, it doesn't even really feel like fall over there in Michigan. But usually when it's fall, it means it's going to be rainy, cold. Just cold, you just want to stay inside. But over here, it's looking pretty nice.
Yeah,
People say Canada is like an ice cap. Not looking like ice cap today.
I'm loving it. It's fantastic. That's why we're out take the dog for a walk, and we're enjoying it.
We enjoy it still.
Yes, beautiful.
I think we're lucky. It's unusual, but it's beautiful.
Environment Canada, which is our sort of weather agency, they said it was going to actually be a little milder, at least on this side of the border. Maybe it could translate to Michigan. What's your take on potential on that?
Potential on that?
It's definitely going to be warmer, depending, based off of the patterns we've seen in the past few years. I think last year we got our first snowfall at the end of November, melted right away. We didn't get a good heavy snowfall until January, and then it all tracked back into April, which is definitely something.
I love the snow. I love shoveling snow. So I don't mind if we get a lot of snow. And, you hear contradicting messages about, we're going to have a lot of snow this year, then we're not going to have any snow. So I don't know. I hope we have a lot.
It's actually good in one sense because we don't have to spend too much for heating of the houses.
Colette Kennedy, I'm not sure that I believe that somebody really enjoys shoveling snow.
I heard so many different things in that story, like the thinking positive, we don't have to heat our homes, and I couldn't hold back when I heard that. I love to shovel snow. That's awesome. I guess it's good exercise, right? We did obviously a very mild air. Then today things cooled down, but the few days yet, and then we'll be finding the temperatures going up again and another push of milder air before a real cool down. What else do I need to fill you in on? Well, with the high pressure that's in place in the clear skies tonight, it allows a perfect opportunity we have the alignment of the sun, the earth, and the moon, and when this happens, we get a lunar eclipse, but what we also have, so it's not just that the earth passes between the sun and the moon falls in the earth's shadow, but we also happen to have a full moon. And this full moon is known as the beaver moon, and that has to do with the fact of when it is occurring. So, I guess at this time of year, apparently beavers are kind of getting their kind of home set and everything for the winter in their shelter. But it will likely appear quite amber red. And overnight tonight, you do have to kind of stay up into the wee morning hours, 3, 4 a.m. to see this. But you should be able to because of the sky conditions. Here we go with our current temperatures, where they sit now, still hanging on to those double digits. But I know we've had that northwesterly breeze sustained around 30 kilometers an hour earlier, but those have backed off, and the winds will continue to back off here as we go into these overnight hours. So that ridge is in place. Snow in place. There are snowfall warnings from Manitoba stretching back to BC, even some wet flurries possible tonight and tomorrow into Vancouver. So that's the colder air that eventually will come our way, but ahead of it we'll get the push of warm air with a southwesterly flow. So a couple of quiet days, not a lot to write home about other than they'll be beautiful, fall days with the sunshine. And it's into Thursday and Friday where we find the temperatures coming up, but by the end of the week we also see an increase in that chance for some showers. Overnight tonight, do take these numbers in. Cool night tonight. If you're going to go outside to try and see the eclipse, you do need to bundle up for that. But even for just tomorrow morning at the bus stop, I believe school's coming back, right? Okay, 12 degrees. Sunny skies Tuesday, Wednesday. We begin that warm up, and look where we're going, Katarina, again.
The roller coaster continues.
Yep, here we are, fall.
Thanks so much for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
When we come back, a really neat moment captured by a wildlife photographer, which you won't want to miss. Canada's competition watchdog is holding firm. At a public hearing, the Competition Bureau said today it plans to block Rogers' $26 billion takeover of Shaw Communications. The Competition Bureau said again that the planned sale of Shaw-owned wireless carrier Freedom Mobile to the Quebecer family of companies does not eliminate its concerns about the Rogers takeover. The Bureau told the Competition Tribunal that it is still concerned the Rogers-Shaw merger would lead to worse services and higher prices for consumers. A nature photographer got the shot of a lifetime on the Nova Scotian coast. This is an Atlantic common thresher shark jumping right out of the water. And if you look on the bottom, you can see what the photographer believes to be a lamprey attached to the shark. He saw the shark jump the first time, so he set up his camera and waited to get the shot. Now, the area is full of wildlife right now, coming up to feed on the annual migration of the Atlantic saury, a type of fish. There was a humpback whale, a gray seal, and a number of different birds. And he says the abundance of fish draws in a lot of marine life and photographers as well. That's so cool. That is it for CBC Windsor News. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.